At this stage, we have everything we need to know to build ourselves our very own super duper beautiful computer. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Right, we haven't discussed power. In order for any system to actually work, you need a power supply. And if you're concerned about having your system never stop working, you should consider a dual power supply. So if one power supply crashes or fails, the second power supply can keep the entire system running. Although the actual specifics of this aren't really necessary to dive into right now, just bear in mind that when you add more components to a system, particularly high performance components, you will need a power supply to match it. And in most circumstances, when the power goes out, it's simply not affordable to consider running your entire HPC system with a UPS. It might be a nice option if you can afford it, but generally speaking, the power consumption of an HPC system is so high that the associated UPS solution would be very difficult to justify for its cost. What is usually a preferred approach is to protect the mission-critical systems and let the compute nodes die during a power outage. It's not ideal, but the alternative is to implement a very expensive backup power solution. And when you consider the pain versus gain philosophy, on a very small budget, you probably don't want to spend a significant portion of that budget on backup power, which is only really useful when power actually goes out, and is otherwise not doing its job or giving you much return on its investment. When all the components are selected, it will fit together in a tower chassis much the same as a typical desktop chassis, as illustrated in this image. A rack-mounted chassis, on the other hand, is slightly different in its assembly, with the tower being configured from a side panel, while the rack chassis is configured from a top panel, as illustrated here. But for the most part, the components required and their configuration are the same for any type of chassis.